Oh, how are you? How are you doing out there? I'm coming at you with some surf here because of my surf lesson yesterday. It was really amazing, and I talk about in my newsletter why it was important for me. So if you want to get that, go grab it. I'm gonna bring on gorgeous Emma, who is an incredible practitioner and also on her own self love journey. And we're going to have a beautiful, potent conversation around how to love yourself. So let me just bring her in. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Why is that not working? There we
Hello.
are. Hello, my darling. How are
I'm
you?
good. How are you? It's always nice to see your red lipstick. I always love that.
I love a little red lip. I'm a little bit like Taylor Swift, you know. Just like don't feel quite myself without it. Yeah, I always feel like if you're like a little sad or a little down or a little tired, if you put on red lipstick, it's just like, oh, I'm alive. I'm here.
Try that. I might try that, definitely.
It's a good tip. It's a good tip. So, my love, I was just introducing this conversation to people, and I'd just like to begin for anyone in my world who doesn't know who you are. If you could tell us who you are and what you do, that would be wonderful.
So I'm a kind of a bit of an all-rounder wellness coach, really, kind of based around my own lived experience of autoimmune disease and other stuff. But yeah, going through that self-love journey of healing myself.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. I don't know why this is frozen. Let's see if it comes back. Is it just me? Dun, 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 dun. Let me see. Invite. See if I can get you back. Bum, 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 bum.
Oh,
You back?
I'm back. My camera's the wrong way around. I don't really know why.
I have no idea what happened, but I was just like giving everyone a little bit of. Sometimes I sing words. It's just a random thing that I do. Like, I'm just
It
going to
doesn't
sing right to get you back.
So I
Okay.
don't know where I got to, but yeah, I work with an eye movement therapy to help release trauma. I work with nervous system regulation, kind of to help my clients create a bit more agency in their lives, particularly in, their own lives, relationships, but also, you know, my stuff was around, agency with the medical system, and that, that's really what I fight for because it's a bit of a tricky journey for people at the moment. But yeah, it's created some really powerful change for a lot of my clients. So yeah. Mm.
Amazing. And I think that piece is so important. That work you do is so important because when you are compromised in terms of your immune system or your nervous system or just in terms of your own physical health, to be able to advocate for yourself, which
Yeah,
is in so many situations what people need to do, it
yeah,
takes it takes a lot, and I think when you have these tools and you're able to really ground yourself even when you don't feel amazing, you're so much more likely to be able to speak
yeah,
up, and so much of
absolutely.
my work is around women and their voices. I know what we have such a wound around speaking and being able to speak for ourselves, right?
Absolutely, and that was definitely my thing. My issues hit early on in eyes and things, but it was mostly my thyroid that kind of started this brand new self-love journey really in my late 40s. So it was, a really tricky path for me, and actually creating advocacy for yourself without being angry, I think, with what was happening and how you were being treated, and be able to say, look, I understand that, but actually this is how I feel was definitely, the transformation for me.
Yeah, absolutely, because so often we go into fight flight, right? And we're just in that state of our nervous system, so we can't think straight, and we're just like, oh. So I
And
love
fire,
that.
fire, and then it doesn't really work. So yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
it
important.
also takes up so much energy in the body, right? When we're in that state, we're just not secure, so we're really in that threat response. I
Yeah,
love that. So let's dive into this a little bit more because I think it's a really special conversation, and I actually haven't had anyone come on that's really spoken to this. So what was the gift for you in terms of the health stuff and how it helped you to really start to treat yourself differently? Because that's kind of what I'm hearing. And keep me right if I'm not, if that's not.
No, absolutely. It was definitely, this is why this was so lovely to do with you, to give a different perspective. Because I think, you know, when I was younger, my inner self-critic, would beat me with a stick every day to get me to work, to, work harder than anyone else, and
Yes.
the people pleasing was immense, the negating my own needs, shoving my own voice down to be able to fit in and be loved, which was not really, the best way to cope, but it was certainly how I managed during childhood. When it hit me in my 40s with Graves, it was pretty hideous. It was I had a big period of stress, a lot of family issues. My dad died, and then I just was getting, you know, high heart rate, but I probably lost about 2 stone and I hadn't even noticed. And that's how bad, when I look back, how bad it was. And the trouble was, no one else had really noticed either. I think I was just slowly disappearing in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Um, it affected my mental health, my menstrual health, my everything. The thyroid is the gas pedal, really. It keeps you
Yeah.
moving. Mine was in total overdrive. Um, so learning to say no
So,
was, yeah, was the biggest thing, and it still is. It still, it still sits in there like, should I, shouldn't I, should I express this or not? But that being able to set boundaries, being able to say, look, I can't do that. I need to be a bit slower. I need to be a bit inward, a bit self-reflective, and really see what's not working for me, because the life, that everyone kind of lived around me, I just couldn't do it. I was fighting the tide every day, and I was just totally frazzled, totally frazzled.
yeah, absolutely. And that piece around like actually starting to say no, right? And I know that some people will be like, what? There's no gift in this, right? I believe
Right.
there's gift in everything.
Yeah.
And it's how we look at things. And I always try and shift from like the question of why is this happening to me? And then
Mhm.
always get it right, right? But why is this happening to me, to like what is here for me? And really
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is like what was there for you was like an opportunity to like almost like you had to stand up for yourself and you
Yeah.
had to become like I speak about this a lot in my teaching, as you know, that good girl programming and that yes girl programming is so deep in our bodies that it doesn't literally feel safe to advocate for ourselves. And then you're given a situation where you're like, well, I actually like for my actual health and well-being, like I can't go out and do those things. And then it starts to become, I imagine, like, do I even want to? Like, is this like for
Definitely,
me?
definitely. That period of slowing down, I couldn't, my life would have been going out, nipping to the pub with my ex-husband and doing things and being there. And actually, I was so overstimulated, even noise was really difficult. So, I just stopped. And even though I still went, I would limit the amount of times. And that was the hardest thing, was really setting boundaries. People are like, oh my God, you're so boring. And I'm like, I just can't do it. So I started to write again, which was something that I loved in childhood. And I started to take photographs and just explored things just to see if they worked for me. What works? Who even am I now? Because I totally lost my sense of self. I think when I look back, when I was first diagnosed with like acute eye stuff, I was 17, and so I was just like taking the pills, moving on, taking the pills, moving on. But looking back at 50 now, it is kind of a gift, because without that, I would have never have changed. Without that, I would have been stuck in this cycle of running around, burnout, eating rubbish, trying to please everybody. So in lots of respects, it's been tough, but it's certainly taught me a lot of the lessons. So I always feel like someone's got a little hand on my back, a gentle hand on my back forward. But yeah.
I love that so much. And just for anyone who's watching it, I think so many people will be relating to what you're saying and bringing because it's such, like, it's so in our conditioning as women as well. Like, for men too, they have their own conditioning. I can't speak to it because it's not the body that I'm in. But there's so much in there, when we look at our younger selves. For me, I had so much judgment around specifically, I would get blackout drunk all the time
Oh
because
God, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, it was the only way I knew how to cope. And what we really want to be doing is approaching our younger self not with it. I mean, I had so much judgment for so long that I've spoken about this before. I couldn't do any inner teenager work until I was a good 5 years into inner child work, because my judgment was so, like, the judgment of the things that she did, and the shame I held for her, it was like she would have been completely shut down to me anyway, right? But your younger self, like, actually kept you safe and actually
Oh, yeah.
survive in that world and get to where you are now. And it's like, um, this piece around, and I know I talk about this in self-love sessions, which you have as well, like
Mm.
this past self, and really honoring her and being like, I'm so grateful. And
Yeah.
that took ages for that to drop in for me. And then let her rest. Like, she doesn't need to do that anymore, right? So you can step into your new era of yourself.
Yeah, it was really that piece. My 14-year-old was not a happy girl and she didn't feel safe anywhere, so when I really went down into that, there was a lot of shame around, like bullying, the isolation, the words, the fear. And shame has been a huge piece of, my own work. Is I was lucky enough to find a really great therapist that just named it and helped me to own it a little bit. But yeah, she just shut down. She just shut down and started to, be what everybody else, or what she thought everybody else wanted her to be, which was tough and gritty and feisty and smoking and drinking and being, completely out there.
I'm
And
gonna
that's
be this identity. Yeah, it's the
yeah,
mask, isn't it, that we take on? Like, I'm gonna be like this so that you know me as this, and then you can only get so close to me because this is the thing that I'm gonna
yeah,
give out to the world that's not really me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard, losing those pieces of who you are as you grow up. And it was so strong, when I went into it, it was really, her, when I see her now, it's always, a little bit lighter, but head was down, everything was, really full of shame. So it's been quite a journey since I was diagnosed. But I'm fully well now, physically I'm fully well and doing well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's such a testament to the work that you've done. And like, what I'm hearing as well is that you really got the right support, which is so important.
Yeah, and I think I was discussing this last night actually, just thinking, you always think there's nothing out there, or I'm trying all the things or whatever, but actually the right people showed up at just the right time.
Yeah.
When I did my Reiki training, it's always like I lived in a little town, there wasn't any holistic anything, and then all the Reiki teacher drops in a crystal shop, and it's like, that's interesting.
It's so funny you say that because I moved home with my parents to build my business, and
Yeah.
I went back to this village, and there was so much here for my inner child as well, like so much deep healing. Like, I don't believe in a world where there are accidents. I think that these things come along to help evolve us as souls. And I remember being like, there's going to be nothing. And I was just super into yoga. I'd been doing it for ages. And I was like, there's going to be nothing. And there was yoga in the hall that I used to go to brownies in, and it was with someone who is an incredible teacher and helped me so much, but also became a best friend of mine. And it's wild how, like, I love the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It's that
Mm.
kind of thing, isn't it? When you are really open. And I think this is really reassuring for anyone that's listening as well, because sometimes it can feel like really overwhelming, and you've like listened to like 17,000 podcasts and like read the books, and you're like, how is this not shifting, right? And so, like, you don't actually have to work it out. Like, I would say surrender and just
Mm.
let yourself be drawn where you're drawn. But
Yeah.
the piece around getting support and going in, like, even though it feels, I remember feeling it like so deeply uncomfortable when I first got counseling, when I first did these practices, when I first was in a group coaching container, when I first had a one-to-one coach, like, all of those things were uncomfortable.
Mm.
And it's like being with the discomfort, but still following your yes.
Yeah, I think, that programming was in there of like, you don't, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you going to a therapist? There
Uh,
must be something wrong with you. And I'm like, actually, I'm really grateful to just go and talk to her like every so, and really clear some stuff. And I suppose I did actually have a conversation about this. When I think about my therapist, it's like what I didn't receive when I was younger is what I get from that now, which is, you know, that reflection of, is this okay? Is that not okay? And but yeah, asking for support is still tricky for me. But when I look back at how I invested, you know, what I used to really worry about investing as well, now it's like, well, of course, if I'm gonna grow that much, then you know I need to invest that much. And it's yeah, it's changed a lot. But asking for support was not something that was healthy in my family, what deemed as healthy.
100%. Like, I have a really supportive family, but I just think they didn't quite get it. And I
Yeah.
remember sitting in the car with my dad, because my dad came down to Edinburgh to like take me to the doctor when I had like a full-on breakdown. And I
Mm,
remember just sitting there and I was like, what do I say to this doctor? Because I have everything. I have a great life. I have a lovely family. I have a great job. Like, I was like in this place of like, what are they gonna say? And then I got the most, again, sometimes this doesn't happen to people. And I do know people that have gone in pretty vulnerable positions and they haven't been given the support.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
to anyone in that space, I would just say that that is not reflective of all practitioners, as you can tell from Emma and I and our experience, but and the work we do. Like, but I remember being in that car and being like so nervous. And then when I got in there and I just said it out loud, and this is the shame piece that you're talking to, it's like the shame that you have inside for about shame is I am bad, right? There's something wrong with me and I'm bad. And as soon as we're able to say something out loud, I think Brene Brown says, when you put shame in a petri dish with empathy, it cannot survive.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like it's like putting it out there.
Shame,
Things you'll
shame
never do.
huge. It's been huge. Even recognizing it was like all these light bulbs went off, and it was kind of like a, if I can own this, if I can know, you know, where it comes from, when it's happening, why, then I can start to own it. And actually, you know, I've got a couple of friends that I've spoke to that do own theirs as well. And one of them bought me like a shame as fuck t-shirt. So it's kind of like,
I
it's
love
really good. Because shame wants to hide, right? It wants to tell you you're bad all the time. And, you know, living with that for so long in that chronically dysregulated state of, well, I
that.
can't be comfortable anywhere. I can't be who I am because it's just, but yeah, going into that space and talking about that and all the things, it's kind of, oh, you know, it's icky really, but it's the only way. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it's like on the other side of that is freedom.
yeah.
And that I'm back. Just my public thing. That's what I call a divine pause. On the, on the other side of that, it's like I never thought I would feel this free in
Yeah,
myself. Like I would never have thought I could walk into a room, I could say whatever I said, and I wouldn't come out and think about it over and over and wonder how I looked, what people thought of me. Like none of that exists, and
yeah,
that is the freedom that comes from airing your shame. And it also, and I'm really interested in how this played out for you. It's like your body is also holding all of that, right? And
yeah.
so when we shift the shame, so many times I've seen it happen again and again where my clients' health, they don't come to me for this, but it completely transforms because they're not holding that trauma and shame in the body anymore.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I would say that chronically dysregulated state had a massive impact on my physical health.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I've noticed it in my own clients when we talk about it and we say like, you know, if you thought about shame, this, you know, then it's like, oh my God, I feel so seen.
That,
What
that,
I've been struggling with for so long. And it's like, it really is a light bulb piece. It obviously takes a bit of working through, but yeah, it had a huge impact on the way I move through life. I'm still, you know, I'm still aware of when it comes up, and why, but it's so much softer now. It's so much, oh, you feeling a little bit of shame now. This is like, do you know what I
I
mean?
love that. I can literally feel that in my body. Like it's so soft. It's not the like the activation and contraction that happens, you know? And that's the difference. It's like,
It is. Yeah.
and that's
Yeah. I
also
mean,
self-compassion. Like,
yeah, if you imagine walking into a room your whole life just feeling like you're wrong, there's something fundamentally wrong with you,
Mhm.
how, just think about how that affects your whole life. It's, yeah.
So true. And in somatics, and I know that you do some of this work as well, we talk about armor, and
Mm,
your body literally will armor itself up
yeah.
so that you don't have to be under as much threat. And then when you start to take that armor away, it feels so vulnerable, but also it creates so much space for me.
Yeah.
I literally feel like I live in a different body from the body I lived in when I had an eating disorder. Like,
Definitely. Definitely.
you
Yeah.
know, it's
And
wild.
when you think about armor, it's really interesting because I know my teacher in the root cause will always say that if you think about the immune system as this protect and defense, then
Yeah.
you imagine that all the time, that you're like this. It's just in that state constantly in the, with autoimmune disease. And then when you rest, and that's normally when people get flares, when you rest
Yeah.
and you're isolated and you can really feel stuff, then that's when it all comes up. It
Yeah.
just comes up and it starts to attack. It's got nowhere else to go. It's got all of these cells going on, and then it just goes, right, I'm going to attack you instead. So, yeah, when I look at really the metaphor and the way it is, and so it just makes so much sense to me now. I wish I'd have known.
Yeah, I know, totally.
Yeah,
I think that's why we're here, like flying the flag for it, though, right?
flying the flag of shame. Yeah.
So I would love to know, what are the things that I know we've talked about a few, but what are the things that you would really say to people or give to people as suggestions for when they're sitting there and they're feeling like it's really hard to love myself? Like I'm really in this space where I want that, and it feels so far away. And this is how it felt for me. So I love to get other people's perspectives on, what are the tools, what are even the things that you say to yourself or you do every day that people might get inspired by.
Journaling is huge for me.
Mm,
It's, I think it was a way that I naturally coped when I was a kid to actually just pour it out on a page.
mm,
What I do now, particularly, and I've noticed the physical sensations when I do it, is writing out my fears in the morning, which are like a clear out. And then just sitting and saying, right, okay, I'm ready for a creative day now, giving it up to something else, because if it's going around in your brain all the time, the self-love part is really difficult for me when I come to, affirmations for myself. But I suppose I see it differently about maybe I'm just reparenting that teenager, really. So physically, I give her rest and exercise and, sunshine, cups of tea out, trips out where she's got, time to feel joy. Um,
yeah,
Things like words, I suppose I'm just like, you're doing all right,
yeah,
you're doing okay. Like, even though you think you're not, you're doing okay. A bit teary now, but that, to me, it doesn't have to be, you're the most amazing person in the world, you're the most incredible. It just needs to be a real gentle kind of, 'cause if you think about how shut down I was at 14, if I started to tell her all this stuff, she's just going to shut right down again. So,
Teflon, yeah, just bounce right off. Like, no,
yeah.
no, I hear you, I know.
So
Yeah,
building that steadily, that sense of safety, having nice meals, just cuddling up with a cat, the animals in my life are just, yeah, yeah. And having safe women that recognize, what I'm going through. They don't have to be in it with me, but they can just feel me and sense me in it, then that's okay.
yeah, I mean, that piece is so huge, and it actually reminded me of something that you said before that I wanted to touch on, which is, the friends that are like, you're no fun anymore. What, like, I'm sorry, but those people just aren't your people. Go and find people who can actually support you. And I don't mean you, I mean for everyone. Like, I know you've already done that. It's like, and this is why like getting into spaces can be so powerful with like-minded people, because you need people in your corner who are willing to really see you and be with you and support you. And I also want to touch on, you just brought so many beautiful things there. This piece around, this is something that I talk about too, with you're not going from like, I feel awful about myself to like, I'm amazing. It is really about finding language that works and lands in the body. And I always talk about if you can just get to neutral, which is kind of what you're saying about like, you're going to be okay and you're probably doing better than you think.
Yeah.
And then that piece are also around self-love isn't just how you speak to yourself. It's a huge part, and it was such a shift for me, but it's also around what you do for yourself. right?
It
And how you show up consistently for yourself as that force. Like that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of, I speak to a lot of people that I work with chronic illness and, really high stress and mostly massive people pleasers. It's like, you
Mm.
have to create an internal boundary before you set external boundaries. You have to know what feels right for you. And actually,
Yes.
being out till 12 o'clock, being Larry and whatever. I mean, it's lovely every now and again, but it's not really my bag. I like to be tucked in with a cat like 10:30 watching some, rubbish.
Yeah.
I have my wild moments, but those inner boundaries of like what feels okay for me and what doesn't, and kind of setting some gentle rules around, um, yeah, what do I need to do in the morning to enable me to get through a really difficult day? What do I need to do after that difficult day? And then the joyous days are the things where we get to have fun. And that wasn't a piece that was there for me when I was growing up. And so setting that boundary for her helps her to feel safe,
Love it.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It's so big and so massive. An inner teenager. Um,
Mm,
I kind of treat inner child and inner teenager as two different things because they're two different experiences for me. And
yeah.
you know, I remember I woke up like the other day and I was felt so tender about everything. And I was like, just gonna wrap yourself in cotton wool today, John. We're just gonna wrap ourselves in cotton wool. And we're just gonna do the things that we absolutely need to do and then anything else is negotiable.
Yeah,
And it's like having your own back in that way is something that we look for other people to give us. It's like we look to partners, we look to our friends, but
absolutely. Fix me, heal me, help me. Yeah.
yeah, we look to coaches and therapists.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah, I think
the real work is learning to do that for yourself, right?
yeah, and I mean the part of I mean I got through and into remission with my thyroid, and I was doing okay, but any big periods of stress were just like sending me on this emotional roller coaster. So finding the eye movement therapy and the nervous system work that's enabled me to live a happy life that's healthy, rather than a healthy life that looks like great on a physical level, but emotionally in a terrible state, the chances of that illness coming back are very strong.
So
So
huge.
happy mind, happy emotion, feeling great and safe in my own space, that was the hardest and the biggest piece for me. So yeah, yeah.
So beautiful, and I think so inspiring for so many people who may feel right now that this is out of reach. It absolutely isn't. It really
No.
isn't. And there are so many ways. And I love that you talk about, movement of trauma from the body and nervous system work. I think they can sometimes be really hard to understand
Yeah,
until you have experienced them.
yeah.
And and it's like an invitation, even if it feels really scary, and even if you're like, oh, that feels like something that's really intimidating, like find a person who you resonate with, who you feel safe. Like safety is the most important thing for me with anybody that you work with. Like you have to feel
Has
safe.
to be trust. There has to be a relationship, and I'm, really aware of that. That this is why I do a lot of, free workshops and
Yeah.
different things where people get to meet me because I've got clients that work with me with chronic illness that have watched my stuff for 2 years before
Yeah.
they listen to my writing on Substack and stuff, and it's like, yeah, sometimes it feels like I'm pounding the same message, but actually sometimes it takes that, and it took me a long time to
Yeah.
learn that was what was going on. So.
And I love that, and I want to touch on that because actually that is really reassuring for the inner child because it's secure attachment. So when you have an adult, and I mean the inner child in adults, right? When you have
Yeah.
an adult that's continually saying the same thing and is really consistent, even though we feel like as business owners, we're just like going around and like, I'm like, hey, I'm going to talk about this again. It's like it actually creates safety and secure attachment for people, and it's so important. And I think that you're absolutely right about like having lots of ways that people can reach you and learn about your work. It's just like the most beautiful beautiful
Yeah.
thing. I'm really conscious of time because I know you need to go.
Yeah. Oh,
So, is there anything that you'd like to say as we close, or anything you want to just add?
I suppose touching on the self-love part, it takes time. When you've learned from a really young age that beating yourself up is normal, that, negating your own needs is normal, that you have to do what everybody else does. It takes time to be able to get there, and even just because you're not feeling it right now, look for those little glimmers, look for those moments where you find space in your day to just go
That part.
yeah, and really reflect on that. That's why I love journaling. You look back over things and you think, God, I was there 2 months ago. Yeah. So it really helps. So yeah, I'm a big advocate for self-reflection and journaling,
Journaling
definitely.
is such a beautiful thing, and it's so interesting because I don't know if you know that when I started my business, it was just therapeutic writing
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
beginning, and now there's just such a huge body of scientific research that is like this is so it just backs up everything I ever thought, which is like it's like one of the most potent things you can do for your nervous system, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lady that I really follow and she advocates for this journaling in the morning, and it all comes in different ways. But I know whenever I felt unsafe or I'm really about to step into something not great, and I journal in
Mhm.
that particular way, I just take a breath and I can sleep. And it's just amazing how that kind of mind body things goes on all the time without us even recognizing it. But that science to back it up is really important. I think people really need that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes our brains loves facts, right? Okay,
Oh,
my
it works. I must do it.
so my darling, I'm gonna let you go, but thank you so much for coming on here. I'm gonna post this if anyone joined us late and they want to just go back and get the replay. And also, Emma and I would just love to know your takeaways and anything that drops in for you. So put it in the comments, and we'll both be on Instagram and we can support you. I hope you have a beautiful Friday, my love.
And you enjoy and safe trip to Scotland.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be back in the whole land soon. All right, darling. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.